To surprise my best friend Scarlett, I took an early flight and arrived at her house by 7. I entered the password to unlock the door, but my friend who loves to sleep in was not there. Accompanied by the sound of water, a man's voice came from the bathroom. "The door isn't locked, come in." This voice, why does it sound a bit like my husband Zephyr? I was startled by this sudden thought and then couldn't help but laugh. Voices in the bathroom are already prone to distortion, and besides, Zephyr and Scarlett have never gotten along, so how could they possibly be together? But did Scarlett play such a big game behind my back? When she comes back, I really need to ask her about it. I was just thinking when the sound of water in the bathroom suddenly stopped, and that person was turning the doorknob. I quickly turned my back and shouted, "I'm not Scarlett, I'm her best friend, Cecilia." The people inside seemed to be stunned, and the action of twisting the doorknob also came to a halt, no longer making a sound. I was so embarrassed. That girl Scarlett got a boyfriend and didn't even tell me, making it so I almost caught them in the act. I hurriedly walked towards the door, and before I could reach it, the door opened by itself. Scarlett stood at the door with breakfast in hand, looking surprised. "Cecilia, how did you come back early?" I winked at her and said, "That's not because I know your little secret." Scarlett was about to speak when she was interrupted by a man's voice coming from the bathroom. "Scarlett, come here. This sound is a bit different from before, it seems I really heard it wrong." My best friend responded and walked over, and I instinctively turned my head to take a look. A figure wrapped in a bath towel flashed by, broad shoulders and a narrow waist, a standard male dog physique, quite similar to my husband. What's going on today? Why do I keep thinking about Zephyr? Is it because I've missed him too much after being away on business for 2 months? Zephyr is usually clingy, and Scarlett often jokes that he is my human accessory, never leaving my side. This time I will be on a business trip for 2 months, and Zephyr's face immediately fell long. We have never been apart for this long since we got married, but his company is at a critical time, so he can't go with me. I tried every way I could to coax him, and finally managed to make him feel better, but there were additional conditions. We must video chat every day. If he knew I came back early and first went to my best friend's house, he would definitely get jealous again. Back then, when Zephyr and I established our relationship and I introduced him to Scarlett. These two people are simply incompatible, unable to stand each other. Scarlett finds Zephyr cold and unfeeling, lacking any warmth. Zephyr disliked Scarlett's chattering, which was so noisy it gave him a headache. He said being with her felt like being in a vegetable market, and I was really caught in the middle, feeling torn. Later, as they became more familiar with each other, they began to compete for my attention, getting jealous of one another, which really left me both amused and exasperated. Now it's good, Scarlett has a boyfriend, so it shouldn't be like this anymore. The 4 of us can still go out and have fun together. I was happily contemplating when a sudden argument broke out in Scarlett's bedroom. I felt a jolt in my heart and hurried over to knock on the door. "Scarlett, what's wrong?" The arguing stopped, but even though my hand hurt from knocking, the door remained closed. I was afraid something had happened to Scarlett inside, and just as I was about to raise my foot to kick the door, it finally opened. Scarlett stood at the door, her eyes red. I rushed in to support her. "What happened? Did you have a fight with your boyfriend?" I looked around but didn't see the man. "Where is he? Quickly tell me what's going on, I'll help you teach him a lesson." Scarlett lowered her head. "Yes, it would have been better if you had come in earlier." Suddenly, with a beep, the sound of the electronic keypad lock opening echoed. I was just about to go out and take a look when Scarlett grabbed me and said, "My boyfriend had something come up, so he left." Her bedroom has 2 doors, I guess that man deliberately used the other door to avoid me. "I'm a bit unhappy, Scarlett, are you treating me like an outsider? You got a boyfriend and didn't tell me, almost making me have an honest meeting with your boyfriend." "Who is it? Do I know him?" Scarlett leaned against the window, the light and shadow casting on her face, making her expression hard to discern. "Because of his work, it's not convenient for us to go public right now." I became even more curious. "Work? Could it be a celebrity?" "It wouldn't be." Wang Kai Kai, would it? I put on a lovesick expression, and Scarlett was amused by me. She pounced over and covered my mouth. You gossiping old hag. Why do you keep asking? After a while of fussing, Scarlett felt much better. She said she was going to the bathroom to tidy up. As soon as I walked over to the sofa and sat down, I heard a knock on the door. But before I could get up to open it, the door opened by itself. What's going on? The door isn't locked? The delivery guy's voice was filled with confusion. Was it that Scarlett's boyfriend didn't close the door when he left? I quickly got up and walked over to help Scarlett sign for the package. His gaze inadvertently swept over the delivery label, a men's sleeping bag? Zephyr likes to sleep in a sleeping bag, wrapping himself up like a cocoon. I joke with him, and he always helplessly rubs my head. I can't sleep without a sleeping bag. But why would Scarlett buy a men's sleeping bag? A mysterious boyfriend, a similar build, the same sleeping bag. Everything that happened today is a bit unusual. Even I, who am usually thick-skinned, feel that something is off. Scarlett came out of the bathroom and took the package from my hand. I casually asked, Scarlett, are you and your boyfriend living together? Sort of. She shook the package in her hand, her tone frank. He has trouble sleeping in a different bed. Your Zephyr always says he sleeps well in a sleeping bag, so I thought I'd buy one for him to try. I couldn't help but scoff at myself, wondering what I was thinking. Then I joked, you're so good to your boyfriend? But you keep things hidden from me, your best friend. Could it be that? Scarlett paused. What is it? Could it be that my position is ranked behind his? I can tell you, I don't agree. She smiled and linked her arm with mine. How could that be? You will always be my best friend. This is more like it. I took a gift box out of the suitcase and handed it to her. I cut my business trip short for this. Go ahead and open it. Scarlett was stunned when she opened the box. Inside was a handbag from Hermes, and Scarlett's expression was dazed, her eyes shimmering with tears, her lips trembling slightly. What's wrong? Don't you like it? I asked a bit nervously. Of course I like it. How did you know? Scarlett pounced over and hugged me tightly. Before the business trip, I accidentally overheard her on the phone, wanting that bag. But there was no stock in City A. I went to the specialty stores in the neighboring city and really found one. To surprise Scarlett, I stayed up for 3 consecutive nights and returned early. The cashier said I was very lucky when I paid. There are only 2 of this limited edition in the world, and the last one was just bought. Yes, I am really lucky to be friends with Scarlett. Scarlett was my classmate in elementary school. At that time I was introverted and often bullied by my classmates. She always stood in front of me, protecting me. Later she transferred schools, but many years later, we met again in high school. In my senior year of high school, my brother got married and needed money, so my family wanted me to drop out of school and get married for the high bride price. It was Scarlett who helped me escape. We all got into a university in City A. I did well in my studies and always share half of my scholarship with her. After graduation, my career quickly got on track, and I immediately introduced Scarlett to more promising top companies. We support each other. We are not family, but we are closer than family. Suddenly, a dull thud echoed in the room. What was that sound? I asked, just about to get up to check. Scarlett grabbed me and said, I have too many things in my room, they must have fallen because I didn't put them away properly. You can't go in. Otherwise, you'll laugh at me again. As she spoke, she got up and walked towards the bedroom. I sat back down. If you don't want to go, then fine, I'm not afraid you'll ask me to help you clean up. I really can't sort out that mess of yours. Scarlett always looks glamorous outside, but at home, it's always a mess. If I didn't arrange for someone to help her clean every week, I can't imagine how messy it would be here. I don't know how long it has been, but when I heard the sound of a door opening, I realized that I had actually fallen asleep. I woke up at 3 in the morning today to catch a flight, and I'm really too tired. Suddenly I thought, if that jealous Zephyr found out I came back early and went to Scarlett's house first, who knows how he would react. I quickly got up. Scarlett, I have to go back first. Scarlett came out of the bedroom, wearing her pajamas. Do you want me to walk you out? I shot her a glance and said, you've already changed into your pajamas, and I'm still asking you to take me home. Am I even human? She tugged at my hand and said playfully, I stayed up late yesterday and got up early today. My dear Cecilia, I knew you cared about me the most. The scent on her body, why does it feel a bit familiar? She touched me and then pulled away. I hadn't had time to think it through. My gaze fell on a dark green object on the sofa, and I casually pulled it out. It was a tie. The pattern above is one that I personally designed for my wedding with Zephyr, unique and one of a kind. I paused and looked at Scarlett with confusion. She chuckled, did you forget? The night before your business trip, we had dinner together, and Zephyr left his tie here. I just remembered, there is such a thing. I complained to Zephyr, why hasn't he come to pick it up for so long? Does he expect someone to deliver it to his door? You still don't know him? We both can't stand each other, so it's better to have less contact. Since you're here, you might as well take him away. Goodbye, Scarlett. I hurried home, and as soon as I opened the door, I shouted. Surprise! Honey, I miss you. But what greeted me was not Zephyr, but an empty home. The house was cold and lifeless, as if no one had lived there for several days. Where is Zephyr? A jolt ran through my heart, and various thoughts flooded my mind. I suppressed my panic and dialed Zephyr's video call. As I listened to the long ringing, my heart sank little by little. Just 1 second before the automatic hang-up, Zephyr's sweaty face appeared. I trembled as I picked up the phone. Honey, where have you gone? I'm on a business trip, the company has something urgent. Zephyr said gently, I thought since you were also on a business trip, I would definitely be back earlier than you, so I didn't specifically tell you. Why are you sweating so much? I tried to make my tone sound calm. I just finished a meeting and forgot my phone. I heard your exclusive ringtone in the hallway and ran all the way back, Zephyr said, turning the phone's camera to show the hotel background. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't get the call. Just wait until you have time to call back, there's no need to rush. I don't want to disappoint my wife. I feel warm inside. When will you come back? I'll be back tomorrow. I remembered Scarlett's boyfriend and couldn't help but gossip. By the way, do you know about Scarlett dating someone? I was at her house this morning and almost ran into her boyfriend, but unfortunately, I didn't see his face clearly. Aren't you two as close as one person? She didn't even tell you, how could she tell me? Zephyr's tone sounded very casual. Thinking about it, I didn't press further. Not long after hanging up the phone, Zephyr's colleague called. Sister-in-law, Zephyr is on a business trip. He said he's worried about you being home alone. If you need any help, just let me know. It's okay, it's okay. I took an early flight back today, and I need to catch up on sleep at home this afternoon. There's nothing going on. Unless it's the end of the world, you don't need to come help, thank you. Don't be polite, sister-in-law. Who in the company doesn't know that outside he is cold and aloof, decisive and ruthless, but privately, Zephyr is a devoted husband. Sister-in-law is always number one. I hung up the phone with a smile. Just as I was about to go to sleep, the company called and asked me to give a report tomorrow. I rummaged through my bag and realized I had forgotten the document folder at Scarlett's house. I had no choice but to run back to Scarlett's house. She wasn't home again, and I couldn't get through on the phone. I could only enter the password again, grab the document bag, and get ready to leave. At that moment, I noticed the unfinished Qingnan Wangji seafood porridge on the dining table, which was Zhou Chen's favorite dish. His gaze swept to the door, where a pair of men's slippers was placed on the shoe rack, the same size as Zephyr's, size 45. Staring at those shoes, I was stunned. I didn't know what I was thinking, my mind was a mess. I shook my head vigorously, trying to dispel those unfounded guesses. It must be my lack of sleep that was causing me to think wildly. A good night's sleep would fix it. I had just closed the door when Scarlett's neighbor came over. "Dear, I seem to remember there was a delivery this morning, but why is it missing now? I'm getting old, my memory isn't good, and my eyesight isn't great either. Can you help me check the surveillance?" It seems that my aunt mistook me for Scarlett, and I didn't explain. I helped her check the surveillance footage, and no package was delivered. I was just about to close the surveillance playback, and at the moment my fingertip touched the close button. The image that flashed across the screen struck me like a bolt of lightning, leaving me frozen in place. I suddenly pressed pause, freezing the frame, then tremblingly dragged the progress bar back a few seconds. In the scene, shortly after I left, Scarlett smiled charmingly, walking intimately with a man as they exited the door. The person seemed to sense something and casually glanced back at the surveillance camera. That face I was familiar with to the bone, those eyes that had gazed at me with deep affection through countless nights, were unexpectedly Zephyr. I felt my blood freeze all over, and my head was buzzing. The man I had seen taking a shower at Scarlett's house in the morning was him. It turns out he never left at all, he just remotely controlled the door lock, making me think he was gone. I trembled as I flipped through the surveillance records, my heart slowly sinking. During the 2 months I was on a business trip, Jochen had been living with Scarlett, going in and out together, as if they were a couple. At 1 p.m. on March 23, Scarlett and Zephyr took me to the airport for a business trip. They returned home together at 2 p.m. and didn't leave until noon the next day. The drive from the airport to her house took exactly 1 hour. On March 22, the day before my business trip, after Zephyr and I left Scarlett's house, he returned at 11 p.m. and didn't leave until 3 a.m., wearing that dark green tie around his neck. On March 15, our wedding anniversary, Zephyr stayed at Scarlett's house for 2 hours, and that day he told me he had to work overtime due to an unexpected matter. The calendar pages turn one by one, and each pause feels like a sharp knife stabbing into my heart. I stare blankly at the monitor, feeling a ringing in my ears, as if my soul has detached from my body. Miss, what's wrong with you?" The aunt's voice woke me up. I forced out a smile that looked worse than crying. "I'm fine, I'm leaving now." "When are you and your boyfriend, whom you've been dating for 3 years, planning to get married?" "I think you two are a perfect match, and your children will definitely be beautiful. Plus, that young man is tall and handsome, he looks reliable." 3 years? I have been married to Zephyr for 3 years as well. Were they together before our wedding or after? I could barely stand, just wanting to escape this suffocating place. I reached out to open the door, and just then, the elevator dinged, and Scarlett's voice came through. "She is taking a nap at home this afternoon, so we can have fun. But after today, is it really over?" Zephyr was very determined. "I can't let her be sad." I suddenly felt extremely scared, not wanting to face the truth that was to come. I let go of the doorknob and stepped back in a panic. But the voices of the two people continued to drill into my ears. Scarlett said softly, "For these past 2 months, we have been like a real couple. Having once had it is enough. I'm to blame for what happened this morning, I was too careless. You know I absolutely cannot lose Cecilia. It won't happen again. But I can't control myself. I love you too much. I want all of your love. I know. Can you grant me a wish?" "What?" "I want a fireworks show. You have never said you love me, even if today is our last day, even if it's just once, I hope you can confess your love for me in front of the whole world." After a moment of silence. "All right. Although my greatest love is still Cecilia, there will always be a corner of my heart for you. I can hear this sentence, and for me, this life is enough." Scarlett's voice choked. After hearing the bang of the door closing, I immediately rushed out of the room. I called a taxi and aimlessly had the driver take me around the city, 1 lap, 2 laps. My brain has overloaded, seeming blank, leaving only an empty shell operating mechanically. "Miss, where are you going? You don't look so well. Do you need my help? How about I take you home first?" The taxi driver looked at me through the rearview mirror, his eyes filled with concern. "I'm fine, master, please take me to the riverbank." My scattered thoughts began to return. There is the place where Zephyr and Scarlett agreed to set off the confession fireworks, which will be the witness of their love. I want to see with my own eyes how the man I love confesses to my best friend of over 20 years about the corner of his heart that will always belong to her. The wind by the river carries moist vapor, gently yet mercilessly brushing against my face. The passers-by around me are excitedly discussing. "Have you heard? Someone has booked the big bridge in the city center today for a grand confession. The entire river is closed to traffic. What a bold move, TSK TSK. It is said that the fireworks alone cost over 5 million, and the light show, 2 million. Booking the venue costs another 2 million. Plus all the miscellaneous personnel expenses, this one night must have cost over 10 million. 10 million. These rich people have so much money, they don't know what to do with it, just like that, wasted in one night. What do you understand? This is called spending a fortune to buy my happiness. This is called romance. Do you get it? Romance? Some romance is nurtured with the pain and tears of others." Listening to the envious remarks of the passers-by, I only felt waves of numbness, as if an invisible hand was gripping my throat, making it impossible for me to breathe. At 8 o'clock sharp, the performance began. A flurry of brilliant heart-shaped fireworks soared into the ink-black sky. At the highest point, with a bang, it exploded, transforming into countless shining specks, reflecting on the shimmering surface of the river, and illuminating my pale face. People are always like this, fond of using these fleeting, illusory things to metaphorize love, to witness that so-called eternity. How ridiculous. Look, look. Wow, it's so beautiful. There are words in the fireworks. Z love S, who are these two? Love lasts forever. Oh my, this confession has such a strong sense of ceremony. A wave of exclamations erupted from the crowd, and a girl's voice was particularly excited. "You see, on the big screen over there. There are two silhouettes. The man is kneeling on one knee, holding flowers. Ah, they embraced. They kissed. What a scene straight out of a drama." Another girl's voice was so excited it nearly broke. "This must be a proposal. It's so dreamy. Which girl could refuse such a confession? This is definitely a memory that will be unforgettable for a lifetime. I will never forget it for a lifetime, of course, I will never forget it for a lifetime." Who would have thought that this dreamlike, grand, and extremely romantic confession was actually their farewell ceremony for the affair? At this moment, a boat draped in white gauze sailed into the center of the river, and several drones buzzed in, surrounding the boat and forming a huge heart-shaped circle illuminated by twinkling lights. Countless petals poured down from the drone, like a pink rain of petals, enveloping the two figures on the yacht, reaching a level of beauty that was utterly sublime. You all say that the two people on that boat are the protagonists of this confession, right? Of course. With such a grand gesture, they must be on site. It's a pity it's too far away to see their face clearly. Could it be something shameful? That's why you're hiding on the boat, being all secretive? Hey, why are you so gloomy? Someone goes to such great lengths to confess their feelings, how could they possibly want to keep it a secret? They must just want to be low-key and not be disturbed. I stared at the boat, surrounded by a rain of petals, recalling the first confession between Zephyr and me. After the university ball, he fell in love with me at first sight and began clumsily creating various encounters. At that time I was insecure and sensitive, thinking he was just playing around, and I rejected him time and again. For the last time, he told me sadly that he would no longer disturb me. As he turned to leave, a runaway car suddenly veered onto the sidewalk and struck me. It was him who selflessly pushed me away, but was knocked down himself, suffering a broken leg and ending up in the hospital. I went to the hospital to take care of him, and as I tended to him with great care, I finally understood that this seemingly cynical rich young man was serious about me, not just toying with me on a whim. I decided to wait for him to be discharged from the hospital before accepting his confession. But on the day he was discharged, he held my hand and said that a confession shouldn't be taken lightly and that we needed to wait a bit longer. The next day, he arranged thousands of candles into a huge heart beneath my dormitory, standing in the middle of the heart surrounded by piles of Juliet perfume roses, loudly confessing his love to me. What surprised me even more was that the lights in the dormitory building were flashing rhythmically, forming the names of him and me. It was he who had mobilized the entire school. So many years have passed, yet his taste has not changed. It is still as flamboyant, only the spectacle has become grander. Miss, why are you crying? Are you too moved? Oh dear, don't cry, at such a wonderful moment, you should be happy. To be honest, I also think this scene is too beautiful, it makes me want to fall in love. A passerby handed over a tissue and said with concern. It was then that I realized my face had long since turned cold. I don't know when, but tears have already been flowing freely. I took the tissue and wiped my face haphazardly. I'm so moved. Amid the blessings, gasps, and applause of the surrounding crowd, I simply began to cry out loud. At 26, I am seen by others as a successful career woman, bright and cheerful, and efficient in my work, but I have experienced the dark, sticky shadows of life. I grew up in an unhealthy family. My parents valued sons over daughters, and after having my older brother, they intended to have another boy, but I was born instead. Rather than saying they raised me, it would be more accurate to say they found a free nanny for my brother. Since I was young, I had to take care of my brother's life, washing his clothes, cooking, running errands, and all the household chores fell to me. In that house, I had no name, only titles like little girl and worthless. I have gradually learned how to protect myself and withstand the storms from those countless injuries. I thought the rain had long passed and the sky was clear. But reality struck me hard again. But it's okay, I can put on the armor I took off once more. Starting tomorrow, I will be that strong Cecilia again. I will no longer need those who have hurt me. When I got home, I sorted out the things Zephyr had given me over the years, and took them downstairs to burn them all clean in a fire. Back in the bedroom, I had a good sleep. I thought I would be tossing and turning all night, but unexpectedly, it was a rare good sleep. The next day I woke up, I had already become Cecilia, the decisive marketing manager of Huayao Technology. This presentation was very successful. I won thunderous applause with my outstanding performance and excellent results. As I stepped down from the stage, the applause was deafening. My direct supervisor Wendy, a mentor and friend who has given me a lot of help and guidance in the workplace, walked over and patted me on the shoulder. Smiling, he said, "Cecilia, you performed exceptionally well this time. There is a transfer opportunity at headquarters, to City C, to be in charge of a newly established business center. 2 years ago, you turned down the opportunity in City B. This time, the opportunity is even rarer, and the platform is bigger. You should think it over carefully. The turning point in life sometimes lies in just 1 or 2 key choices. Wendy, I've made up my mind, I'm going." In the past, I was reluctant to leave City A because there was Zephyr, there was Scarlett, and everything I was familiar with. But now, what is there to worry about? That's really great. I'll communicate with headquarters, and you can report there in a month. Wendy's eyes sparkled with appreciation and anticipation. After work, a colleague I have a good relationship with and I were chatting about things after going to headquarters. Just as we walked out of the company gate, a familiar voice interrupted our conversation. "Cecilia, where are you going?" "I just got back from a business trip, and you're leaving again?" Zephyr appeared behind me at some point, looking at me with a tense expression, his tone filled with unease and doubt. I signaled my colleague to leave first. Then I turned around and said calmly, "It's not me, it's my colleague who wants to leave." Zephyr was as considerate as ever, neatly helping me put down my bag and gently taking off my coat. "I have a surprise for you." He took me to the restaurant we often go to, which is hard to book, sometimes the wait can be a month. "I know the dishes at this place are light in flavor, especially to your taste." His tone carried a hint of excitement. "I've acquired it, so you can come and eat whenever you want from now on. no need to make a reservation anymore. He pulled out a chair for me to sit down. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, indicating my satisfaction. He seemed to sense my indifference and cautiously leaned closer, softly asking, "What's wrong, Cecilia? Are you feeling down?" I casually made an excuse. "This business trip has been hectic. I've been burning the midnight oil for several nights in a row, haven't rested well, feeling a bit tired. In the evening, the light in the bedroom is dim." I sit alone on the bed, gazing out the window, my mind full of plans for what comes next. Suddenly, Zephyr wrapped his arms around me from behind, his warm breath brushing against my neck, his voice low and suggestive. "Wife, it's been a long time since do you miss me?" His touch made me feel a wave of nausea, and the images of him and Scarlett being intimate flooded my mind like a tide. I felt a storm brewing in my stomach, suddenly pushed him away, rushed into the bathroom, and leaned over the toilet, violently vomiting, feeling like I was about to expel my bile. He hurriedly followed me in, without a hint of disdain, gently patting my back, anxiously saying, "Baby, how are you? Did you eat something bad?" I accidentally vomited on his high-end tailored trousers, but he didn't mind at all and just kept comforting me. My heart ripples with waves. He is a person with a cleanliness obsession, yet he can overlook filth for me. I really don't understand. If he loves me, why would he cheat? If he doesn't love me, why is he so considerate and attentive to me? I was crying so hard that my eyes were blurry, feeling utterly miserable. He was very anxious. "No, I have to take you to the hospital." I propped myself up and said hoarsely, "I'm fine, just a bit of discomfort in my stomach. I just need to rest for a while." Under my insistence, he didn't mention going to the hospital again and stayed by my bedside all night. The next morning, Zephyr tiptoed to the bedside. "How do you feel? Are you feeling better?" "I'm fine now." "Then you can't take it lightly. I prepared easy-to-digest porridge for you. Don't go to the office today, just rest at home." I nodded in agreement. As soon as he left for the company, I hurried to the hospital without stopping. Sitting in the back seat of the taxi, my heart was in my throat. Last night, I suddenly remembered that I hadn't had my period for 2 months. Due to malnutrition in my childhood, my periods have always been irregular, so I hadn't paid much attention to it before. But now, a sense of inexplicable unease surged in my heart. I am really pregnant. I clutched that thin test report, my palms sweaty. This is a vibrant life. For 3 years of marriage, we have been looking forward to having a child. Once, we imagined countless times what our child would look like, what name we would give him, and how we would love him. But now, when this little life has truly arrived, my relationship with Zephyr has already fallen apart. If I give birth to this child, I will inevitably be entangled with Zephyr endlessly, and that is absolutely not the future I want. Thinking of this, my tears blurred my eyes, and I silently said in my heart, "Baby, I'm sorry. I decided to have an abortion. I really don't want to see Zephyr right now. I need time to heal and time to plan my future properly." So, I sent a message to Zephyr, saying that I would be on a business trip for a few days. Then, I scheduled the abortion procedure. However, on the second day of my hospitalization, Zephyr unexpectedly found the hospital. The moment I saw him, my heart tightened. Yes, he has the contact information of all my colleagues. I used to think that was his love for me, but now I realize it is also a form of restraint. He stood at the door of the hospital room, his eyes red and filled with pain as he questioned me, "Why did you do this? Why did you terminate our child?" I said calmly, "This child has come at the wrong time." He heard this and became instantly agitated, shouting loudly, "Then when is the right time? You always ignore me for work, and now you don't even want your own child. I don't understand. I've been so successful, I can give you everything you want. Why do you still have to struggle so hard and can't just enjoy life peacefully?" Just then, his phone suddenly rang, interrupting our argument. He glanced at the screen and quickly hung up. I didn't need to guess, it was definitely a call from Scarlett. He was about to speak, but the phone rang again. Zephyr hesitated for a moment and said to the phone, "I have something going on here, wait a bit." But soon, the sound of the phone message chimed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. He clearly couldn't sit still. There's a bit of an urgent matter at the company. I need to take care of it first. I'll be back soon. After saying that, he hurriedly left the hospital room. Not long after he went out, I quietly followed behind him and saw Scarlett looking for Zephyr at the corner of the stairs. Zephyr, I'm 3 months pregnant. Impossible, we've always taken precautions. No matter what, get rid of it. But you and Cecilia have never had children, haven't you always hoped for a child? I said we were done, don't ruin the memories between us. My child can only be Cecilia. I might have found this touching before, but at this moment, I only felt disgust. But Cecilia doesn't want to have children for you at all, she is completely focused on her work. Last time you begged her so much, yet she still decided to go on a business trip for 2 months. She can never be your understanding flower, your safe harbor, but I can. Zephyr, this child may be your only child, I know you love Cecilia, I won't disturb you. As long as you agree to let me have this child, I will leave here and go abroad, Cecilia will never know. In the future, if you can come to see us mother and child for a month or 2 each year, I will be completely satisfied. Zephyr did not speak, sometimes silence is the best answer. I knew he was moved. In the blink of an eye, a month has passed, and the bell for Zephyr's game company's IPO is about to ring. Today is also the day I am going to City C. Zephyr's family business mainly revolves around real estate, but in recent years, it has been struggling and is already at the end of its rope, relying solely on a bit of its old capital to stay afloat. The current game companies are the key to revitalization. His company specializes in Otome games, combining gaming with AI, allowing customization based on each player's needs. This innovation has received a tremendous response in the industry. His long-standing persona as a loving husband has won the hearts of countless female players and brought immense traffic to the game. However, these will eventually backfire on him. For the past half-month, I have been watching all of this with a cold eye, while also quietly gathering evidence against Zephyr and Scarlett. Photos, videos, chat records. I have already processed all the materials that can prove their close relationship. On the day of the listing, I anonymously sent all the evidence to major media outlets and gaming forums, spending millions to hire a marketing team to create a buzz. In an instant, public opinion exploded, and the carefully crafted image of Zephyr's beloved wife collapsed in ruins, with netizens condemning his hypocrisy and deceit. The stock price of the gaming company plummeted, and the listing plan was also in jeopardy. When Zephyr saw the evidence of infidelity brought by his assistant, he, usually so composed, actually stumbled and fell to the ground. He frantically called and texted me, but I had already blocked him. He abandoned everything at the company and rushed back to our home. However, all that awaited him was an empty room and the divorce agreement on the coffee table. With such a commotion, his career will suffer greatly. Our finances have always been separate. I only took my own share. Before leaving, I met with Scarlett. Scarlett, I know everything. During these 2 months while I was on a business trip, you and he have been living together, right? Scarlett's body stiffened for a moment, then she lowered her head, avoiding my gaze. She acquiesced. When did you start? Scarlett's head hung even lower, and she still didn't speak. At the beginning, you deliberately let me hear that you wanted the Emma family's bag, didn't you? Because you know I would buy it for you. You planned everything, wanting me to happen upon you and Zephyr together, so that it all looks like an accident, right? I struggled to control my trembling voice, but you didn't think that, although I didn't realize it at the time. Later on, I discovered even more. Scarlett finally lifted her head, her eyes brimming with tears. Cecilia, since you already know, that's fine. I really love Zephyr, you've been so good to me, so please let him be mine. Her tone was pleading, yet carried a hint of entitlement. I was taken aback for a moment, somewhat incredulous. Tell me, why does it have to be Zephyr? There are so many men in this world, why does it have to be him? Scarlett suddenly became excited. Zephyr and I were each other's first love in middle school. We knew each other first. Back then, it was his family that looked down on mine, and we had no choice but to part ways. You were the one who intervened between us. You are the real third party. When you first introduced us, he pretended not to know me, but when I secretly asked him to meet, he came right away. He still has lingering feelings for me. And if it weren't for me back then, you would have married the village drifter long ago, and there would have been no chance to meet Zephyr? Looking at her hysterical state, I knew she couldn't take anything in. As you wish. I don't want him anymore, nor do I want you. 2 months later, my work and life in City C had settled into a routine. When Zephyr found me, I was preparing an important project proposal. He looked extremely disheveled, with a scruffy beard and deep-set eyes. I heard that the family is very disappointed with his actions, and he has now been kicked off the stage, becoming the family's outcast. It seems he doesn't care either, constantly asking friends about me, desperately searching for me. Cecilia, I know I was wrong. Can you give me one more chance? He pleaded, his voice hoarse. I put down the document in my hand, looked at him, and said calmly, Zephyr, it's over between us. Your choice back then has determined that we can never go back to the way things were. No, Cecilia, I love you, I only love you. Scarlett means nothing to me, I am with her only because her family can provide us with funding. It was her who threatened me, saying she would withdraw her investment if I didn't stay with her. I did all this for our future, I don't want you to suffer so much. I have already made her terminate the pregnancy, Cecilia, you know that the only person I love is you. You love me too, we can't be apart. I interrupted him, at this point, it's impossible for us. Zephyr, you don't need to say anything more, I don't want to hear it. He refused to give up, and in the days that followed, he came to find me every day. Blocking the entrance of my company, lingering downstairs at my home, hoping to seek my forgiveness. That day, Scarlett suddenly appeared in front of me with her big belly. Cecilia, why are you being a whore while putting on a facade? Since you no longer want Zephyr, why are you still leading him on like this? He already has children with me, isn't what you're doing too much? Zhou Chen has deceived me again, but my heart is already calm. Scarlett, who was it that destroyed my relationship with Zephyr? How dare you blame me now? Zephyr has his own legs, did I force him to come? You. Scarlett's face turned pale with anger, and she was at a loss for words. Zephyr, let's go. He doesn't want you, I do. I've already told Dad, we'll start a new investment company for you, our family of 3 will live very well. Scarlett pulled Zephyr's arm. I won't leave. Zephyr shook off Scarlett's hand. Cecilia, can you really be so heartless? After all these years of our relationship, can you really just say to let go and let go? Scarlett erupted completely, shouting, Zephyr, look at her, she doesn't care about you at all. Why are you still begging her so humbly? Zephyr didn't look back, pushing her away. Stay away from me, whether you keep the baby or not is your business, I won't acknowledge it. Scarlett's face was pale, she shot me a resentful glance and turned to leave. Before long, Scarlett actually drove towards me and crashed into me. Cecilia! Be careful! Zephyr shouted, rushing over to push me away. With a loud crash, I watched in horror as Zephyr was knocked away. Scarlett was sentenced to prison for intentional injury. As for Zephyr, he is paralyzed. I visited him in the hospital once. He lay on the hospital bed, his gaze hollow, the pride and confidence he once had completely gone. Zephyr. My heart was filled with mixed emotions. Although he had cheated, it was not a crime deserving of death. I had never thought of punishing him so severely. He turned his head, looked at me, his eyes filled with complexity. Cecilia, just go. This is all my retribution, forget about me. I know that, with his pride, he won't bother me anymore. I quietly left the hospital. I began to focus on my career, and years later I had become a company director. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the office, overlooking the entire city. The road ahead is still long, and there may be various challenges and difficulties to encounter. But I am no longer afraid, because I know that what does not kill me will only make me stronger. My life is in my own hands.